Welcome to our worship service at Central Unitarian Church. My name is Susan Usatine, and I am happy to serve as your worship associate for today, Sunday, March 4th. This morning, our sabbatical minister... What?
It's May.
Ah! It kind of feels like that, right? Like we've been in a bit of a time warp, yes, all of the above. May 4th. This morning, our sabbatical minister, Reverend Mark Cutolo, will preach a sermon titled Seeking Meaning, Seeking Mental Well-Being. There is a link between our search for meaning and maintaining our mental well-being. The sermon will explore the role of meaning and values as it relates to mental health. CUC is an inclusive community of all ages which embraces diversity in identity, expression, and spiritual belief. We gather together each Sunday in worship to find inspiration, hope, and renewal among this community of like-hearted individuals. If you are visiting us in person, please be sure to say hello to one of our welcome hosts. If you would raise your hands, thank you so very much. And if you're visiting with us online, please be sure to click the link provided in the chat and sign our guest book by providing us with your name and contact information. We are grateful to Matt Anderson, Renee Galvan, the CUC Choir, and Phil Sosinsky for combining their extraordinary talents this Sunday. We invite you to stay after service for coffee, conversation, and connection here. Coffee hour is offered by the choir today, and we would like to thank Rudy Jager, who donated the beautiful flowers in front of the podium in honor of his beloved wife. Pastoral Care has set up a meal train to support Denise Adams during her recovery. To sign up, see the flyer on the table or look for the link in our newsletter. Another announcement, the next soup lunch is Wednesday, May 7th. Also, this year, the end-of-year picnic will be combined with a welcome back luncheon for Reverend Andre. Yay! It will take place on June 1st at 12:30 p.m. at the Elks Lodge, just up the road from the clubhouse on Kinderkamak. More details to come. And thank you all to those who pledged during the stewardship campaign. We reached 90% of our goal. If you have questions or haven't yet made your pledge, please do get in touch with a member of the stewardship committee. Finally, I would like to invite Brooke Kanata up to provide a spring fling update.
Good morning, everybody. It's been a minute since I've been up here. Wow. Spring Fling is not really over because I still have more space in a couple of events. There's sign-up sheets on the side if you want to take a look and see if there's something you might have missed when you were bidding. But I really would like to thank the Spring Fling Committee, first of all, for all their support and everyone who donated and bid and participated. So thank you all so very much. Thanks. And we did reach 90% of our goal. So.
Thank you, Brooke. As we prepare to begin our service this morning, we ask those of you here in person to please silence your electronic devices. And then as we formally begin the gathering, please turn to the person next to you and offer them a warm welcome.
Good morning. Our opening words today are by the author Joe Poor. Mother, Father, God, universal power, remind us daily of the sanctity of all life. Touch our hearts with the glorious oneness of all creation as we strive to respect all the living beings on this planet. Penetrate our souls with the beauty of this earth as we attune ourselves to the rhythm and flow of the seasons. Awaken our minds with the knowledge to achieve a world in perfect harmony, and grant us the wisdom to realize that we can have heaven on earth. And now I invite those who are gathered here in person to rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 43, The Morning Noiseless.
We ask that you join us in saying our chalice lighting words, which are based on CUC's vision statement. We light this chalice to remind us of our dreams, to nourish our heart, mind, and spirit, to work towards a better world for all, to embrace the whole of our human experience, to honor our past and our gifts of the present, to create a community where each of us may find healing, transformation, and hope. We are not alone. Our lives are built on shared commitments, giving and receiving together. This congregation serves as a place where we intentionally practice this shared living, interdependence in a culture that overemphasizes independence. One of the ways we practice our interdependence is through our congregation's finances, which depend on the generous contributions of members and friends. We pause each week to recognize this particular form of sharing, each of us giving what we can to support the mission and vision of the Central Unitarian Church. Your financial contribution helps each and every one of us to grow, to serve, and most importantly, to live lives centered on love. Our offering will now be gratefully received. May we now join our voices together, speaking our dedication words based on CUC's mission statement. We dedicate these gifts in service of our mission to welcome all into a home of spiritual diversity that challenges us to become our best selves, to minister to one another in love, and to serve the greater community.
We now pause to take a moment to share our joys and concerns. We do this each week as a way of showing our care for one another. We invite you to share the joys and sorrows you hold in your heart today. If you are online, you may do so by entering that information in the chat box. Those of you here in person may have already lit a candle and submitted a joy or sorrow, which I will read aloud. We will also offer a moment for those here to share out loud the names of those you are holding in your heart today. So let us quiet ourselves in order to enter that holy space of listening and of breathing in a breath of life and breathing out a breath of peace. And now I invite you to share out loud the names of anyone else that you are holding in your heart today. We hold all of these cares, joys, and concerns in our hearts, as well as the ones which remain unspoken. And now would you please join me in a moment of meditation. While sitting down where you are, be aware of your feet grounded on the floor. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, scanning your entire body up and down from your toes to the top of your head, then back down again while breathing out. As you inhale and exhale, breathe deep into your chest so your belly fills with the air. When exhaling, control the air as it leaves your lungs. At this time, make breathing in and out your only responsibility. Listen to your breath as it goes in and out of your nose. Feel it as it fills your lungs. Control it as your lungs empty. Continue to do this for 1 minute. At the end of that portion of the meditation, I'll continue with the text of today's spoken meditation, after which we will continue with another moment of silent meditation. At a certain point, you say to the woods, to the sea, to the mountains, the world, now I am ready. Now I will stop and be wholly attentive. You empty yourself and wait, listening. After a time, you hear it. There is nothing there. There is nothing but those things only, those created objects, discrete, growing or holding or swaying, being rained on or raining, held, flooding or ebbing, standing or spread. You feel the world's word as a tension, a hum, a single chorused note everywhere the same. This is it. This hum is the silence. The silence is all there is. It is the Alpha and the Omega. It is God's brooding over the face of the waters. It is the blinded note of the 10,000 things, the whine of wings. You take a step in the right direction to pray to this silence, and even to address the prayer to world. Distinctions blur. Quit your tense. Pray without ceasing. And that concludes this moment of meditation. I invite those who are gathered here in person to rise in body or spirit as we sing our second hymn, number 336, All My Memories of Love.
A reading from the 11th chapter of the book of Proverbs, starting at the 2nd verse. People who are proud will soon be disgraced. It is wiser to be modest. If you are good, you are guided by honesty. People who can't be trusted are destroyed by their own dishonesty. Riches will do you no good on the day you face death, but honesty can save your life. Here ends the reading.
As the years pass, society grows more and more understanding of issues related to mental health and substance use. And in that context, in the past couple of years, there's been more attention paid to the issue of adolescent mental health. There's a sense that adolescent mental health is declining, and there is data to support that sense. Earlier this year, our most recent U.S. Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, had issued a rare and urgent warning. The mental health crisis among young people was having severe consequences and leading to devastating effects, in his words. His concerns were underscored by a troubling rise in youth suicide rates, an increase of 40% among those aged 10 to 19 over the past 20 years, as well as an 88% surge in emergency room visits related to self-harm behaviors. To better understand the youth mental health crisis, Dr. Murthy traveled across the country, engaging with students, healthcare professionals, and community leaders. Many of his findings were published online, and in one interview he gave with the health and science journalist Matt Richtel, he spoke about his deepening commitment to addressing that growing challenge. I'm going to share with you an excerpt from that interview because not only does he speak to a public health concern, but in doing so, he also highlights a spiritual concern as well. So the journalist said, "Other generations have faced mental health challenges. Is something different today?" Dr. Murthy said, "There is something that's worse. It's not just about greater detection. Yes, there is greater willingness to talk about mental health, and that has contributed to increased reporting. But hospitalizations have gone up and suicides have gone up. Those are real things. Something is driving the greater pain and despair." And then in the interview, Dr. Murthy then goes on to explain some of his theories of why adolescent mental health is deteriorating, and he cites causes like social isolation, loneliness, online and offline bullying, a 24-hour information overload, and social media. Exploring the role of social media on mental health, the journalist then asked, "These social media platforms also allow young people to connect and to explore different ideas. How do you consider the tension between information overload on the one hand and freedom of exploration and expression on the other?" Dr. Murthy said, "Life is much more complicated for people today than it was 20 years ago and certainly 100 years ago. I don't think we should go back 100 years. But with more choices, the anchoring values that guide you in your definition of success become all the more important. Moments like this are ones where we have to ask, what are the values that are guiding us as a society?" The journalist then asked, "What's the connection between values and mental health?" Dr. Murthy said, "Values are the filter that we use to help us make decisions when we are faced with choices. But our values are also what inform what we drive toward in life. Young people tell me they feel caught up in hustle culture. What they're saying to me was that they felt that they were being asked to chase certain objectives. Getting a job with a fancy title, making a lot of money, becoming famous, acquiring power. And not only did many of them say that they were exhausted, but they weren't sure that that was what was going to bring them happiness. This is where we have to pause and ask ourselves, are we pushing our kids to pursue what's really going to lead to their happiness and to their fulfillment?" End quote. What I found interesting about this exchange was that what started out as a conversation about mental health and risk factors ended up being a conversation about values and meaning-making. Dr. Murthy thinks that it's possible that young people aren't valuing the right things, and maybe there needs to be a change in values in order to improve mental well-being. I welcome Dr. Murthy's concern about youth mental health, and I appreciate his attention to the issue of values. As a faith community, we welcome any conversation about values, because for congregations like ours, a central task of our religious life is to identify and live by our values. As a faith community, we want to be the type of people who live by our values, not just speak them. Also, as a faith community, we get to explore the world's best teachings through the ages to help us know what values we can consider to live by. In the passage we heard read this morning from the book of Proverbs, we hear the author admonishing the listener to turn away from negative values like pride, dishonesty, deceit, and a reliance on wealth. Instead, the passage encourages the reader to embody higher values like humility, modesty, honesty, integrity, and spiritual wisdom as opposed to material wealth. Living by these higher values, the author believes, is the path to greater wisdom. As I'm sure many of you already know, our denomination's annual General Assembly voted last summer to amend our bylaws in order to change our list of the 7 principles into a list of shared values. Since we're all still getting used to the new list of values, I'll list them here. The first value is interdependence, meaning we honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Our second value is pluralism, meaning we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Our third value is justice, meaning we work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. Our fourth value is transformation, meaning we adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Our fifth value is generosity, meaning we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. And finally, our sixth value is equity, meaning we declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Those are our 6 values. Besides our own religious traditions, how else can we learn to form a sense of our values? Sometimes, surprisingly, one way to identify your values is by observing the values of others and their actions and recognizing that you want to embrace other sets of values. For example, I had come across an essay by the American commentator Jamel Bowie in which he described the traits, character, and values of someone whose larger-than-life personality draws attention, but not always in positive ways. Of this well-known person, he wrote, quote, "This man is not a complicated man. His every function exists to satisfy his ego. He is a covetous person consumed by an insatiable desire for acquisition, a man who seems to take the 7 deadly sins as a 7-day challenge. He sees every relationship as a game of dominance and seems to reject the very idea of a mutually beneficial transaction. He treats everyone around him, from employees and political allies to members of his own family, as tools to use and then discard. To cozy up to him is to sacrifice your dignity to his cravings and desires, end quote. The man that Bowie described in that passage is someone whose negative values are identified as narcissism, greed, materialism, pride, manipulation, exploitation, deceit, betrayal, and cruelty. Sometimes it can be helpful to observe those traits and values in others, so it can serve as a reminder that there are better values for us to emulate. Having said that, if we want to identify positive and higher values to live by, one good way to do so is to do an activity that's called a values assessment. You can find these assessments in books and online, and they're not too difficult to do. You just need a pen or pencil and an open mind. You could do an assessment by yourself or together with the people who you live with or work with, and I imagine that the results would be pretty interesting to compare. In one version of a values assessment that I found, there are 5 steps to completing the worksheet. The first step is to recall and then write down times when you have been so absorbed in what you were doing that you hardly even noticed the time passing. What were you doing in those times? Answering that question will help you to gain insight into what truly matters to you, and therefore help you make more intentional choices in life. The second step is to think about and write down the things that you find meaningful. What do you think of? You can include ideals, feelings, and activities. Doing this activity can help you to identify values by allowing someone to have a clearer understanding of what drives you and what principles guide your decisions and actions. The third, and maybe most fun step, is to look at a list of values and to circle the ones that are most important to you and which reflect what you had written earlier. I'm going to now read the list of values to you, and as I say each one out loud, think about whether that value is important to you. Achievement and accomplishment. Advancement. Autonomy. Balance. Belonging to a group. Building something. Challenge. Compassion. Competition. Creativity. Creating something new. Creating beauty. Creating change, as in social change. Creating information. Decision-making. Entrepreneurship. Equality. Excitement or risk. Fame. Family happiness. Financial security. Friendships. Fun. Happiness. Harmony. Health. Helping others or serving people. Influencing people. Improving or perfecting something. Independence. Integrity. Leadership. Learning, growing, or gaining wisdom. Leisure. Listening. Mastering a technique or field. Personal development. Physical activity. Receiving recognition and or impressing people. Repairing or fixing something. Respect. Risk-taking. Safety. Security. Self-expression. Spirituality. stability, status, teamwork, tenacity, visioning, and wealth. So once you've circled the values that are important to you, the fourth step is to look at those values you identified and then choose the top 10 from that list. The fifth step is to look at that shorter list of values and to identify and prioritize the top 5 values on your list. Once you've done that, you now have a list of your core values. What isn't on the values assessment, though, is another important step, and that is to think about how you'll put your values into practice. Because we can't forget that our values are what we use when we make decisions in our daily lives. For example, if you identified spirituality as a core value, you could use that as a guide to encourage you to connect with a higher power or something bigger than yourself. If you identified equality as a core value, you could use that as a guide to encourage you to treat others as equal to yourself and vice versa. If physical activity and fitness are a value, then you can live that value by maintaining or improving your fitness and looking after your physical and mental health and well-being. If compassion is a value, then you can live that value by acting with kindness towards those who are suffering. If safety is a value, then you can live that value by securing, protecting, and ensuring the safety of yourself or others. If creating beauty is a value, then you can live that value by appreciating, nurturing, and cultivating beauty in yourself, others, and in your environment. So when all is said and done, our values are not just words or abstract ideals. They are the compass by which we navigate our everyday lives. They guide our decisions, shape our relationships, and influence the ways we contribute to our world. In a time when mental health struggles are rising, particularly among young people, we must continue to ask, what values do we uphold? And how do they impact our well-being and the well-being of those around us? Are we creating a culture of our higher values, which lead to authenticity, compassion, equanimity, and balance? Or are we reinforcing negative values that lead to burnout, disconnection, dysfunction, and dissatisfaction? As a faith community, we UUs have a unique opportunity to intentionally cultivate and live by values that support wholeness, justice, and making meaning. We can be a source of grounding in a fast-moving world, a place where we remind one another that our worth is not measured by wealth, status, or external validation, but by the goodness we share, the integrity we uphold, and the kindness we offer. May we each take the time to reflect on our values, to try to live by them with intention, and to encourage one another in the lifelong journey of meaning-making. By doing that, we not only strengthen our own mental and spiritual well-being, but also create a more compassionate and value-driven world.
Please join me in saying our chalice extinguishing words based on CUC's covenant. We extinguish this chalice flame, but not our promise to each other, to act with grace, to hold each other in love, to serve this community and our world. This promise of the heart serves as a reminder of how we live together. May it bring joy to our collective lives.
And our closing hymn is number 340, Though Gathered Here to Celebrate. Please rise as you're able. Our closing words are a prayer from the Ute tribe of the American West. Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light. Earth, teach me suffering as old stones suffer with memory. Earth, teach me humility as blossoms are humble with beginning. Earth, teach me caring as the mother who secures her young. Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands all alone. Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground. Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky. Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall. Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring. Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life. Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep with rain.